On the morning of December 4th, 2024, UnitedHealthcare CEO Thompson arrived outside the New York Hilton for an investor conference. A figure in a mask was waiting for him. The assailant approached from behind and fired multiple rounds from a suppressed 9mm pistol. When the weapon appeared to jam, the shooter manually racked the slide, cleared the chamber, and fired again before fleeing on foot. Within minutes, the NYPD descended on the site, cordoning off the Midtown Manhattan blocks and securing the immediate area. Detectives scouring the sidewalk found 3 spent shell casings and 3 unfired live rounds. Written directly onto the brass were 3 words: delay, deny, and depose. The calculated nature of the attack and the messaging left on the bullets indicated this was an execution rather than a random act of violence. The shooting of a Fortune 500 executive immediately triggered a frantic nationwide manhunt. Working backward from the crime scene, investigators used CCTV to track the killer's movements. He fled on an e-bike, cutting into the dense geography of Central Park. Near the park's carousel, police recovered a discarded gray backpack. Inside was a jacket and a stack of Monopoly money. The suspect had been in the city for 10 days. He originally arrived at the Port Authority bus terminal on a Greyhound bus that had originated in Atlanta. While checking into an Upper West Side hostel, the suspect presented a fake ID and paid cash. At the front desk, he briefly lowered his medical mask to smile, a moment captured clearly by a security camera. That single frame transformed the investigation. The search for a ghost was now a targeted hunt for a specific, recognizable face. 5 days later, the search narrowed to Altoona, Pennsylvania, nearly 300 miles from the crime scene. Inside a local McDonald's, a worker noticed a customer eating hash browns and using a laptop. Recognizing the man from the NYPD's hostel photo, the employee alerted the authorities. Local office.
Yes. Thank you. What's your name?
Mark?
What is it?
Mark?
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Mark what?
Rosario.
Sorry. Someone called. They thought you were suspicious.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have your ID on you?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Thanks. Thought you looked like someone, guilty to
Alerted the authorities. Local officers confronted the man at his table. He produced a fake New Jersey ID and began to shake under questioning before eventually admitting his real name, Luigi Mangione. In Mangione's bag, police found a ghost gun. It lacks serial numbers because the foundational component, the lower receiver, is 3D printed at home. The rest was assembled from untraceable metal parts and a custom 3D printed suppressor, matching the gun used in New York. A recovered notebook detailed a plan to whack a CEO at a parasitic bean counter convention, citing deep grievances with the American healthcare industry. The capture provided investigators with the murder weapon and a written motive. The manhunt was over, but the contents of the notebook were beginning to spark a different kind of controversy. Luigi Mangione was not the typical suspect for such a crime. An Ivy League graduate and valedictorian, he came from a wealthy and influential real estate family in Maryland. His radicalization followed a 2022 accident that left him with debilitating back pain. A subsequent surgery failed to provide relief, fueling a deep resentment toward a medical establishment he believed had failed him. Physical isolation led to an ideological dissent. Mangione began publicly praising the anti-technology manifestos of Ted Kaczynski, another intellectual who had turned to violence as a response to systemic alienation. As the case moved toward trial in New York, his defense team prepared a strategy centered on extreme emotional disturbance. This legal maneuver essentially requires Mangione to admit to the killing, while arguing he was driven by an obsessive hatred for the healthcare system, effectively putting the industry itself on trial. Following his arrest, a significant wave of support emerged online. Rather than universal condemnation, Mangione's actions were met with global fundraising efforts and an outpouring of sympathy on social media. This sentiment manifested in a dark fandom, where supporters created viral artwork and merchandise, like these free Luigi shirts, praising the assassination. This resonance stems from a deep-seated anger. For many, Mangione's manifesto mirrored their own feelings of being abandoned by a for-profit system that they view as parasitic. This public embrace moves beyond a critique of policy. By framing a premeditated killing as a heroic act, the online fervor aligns with the very definition of violence for political change that Manhattan prosecutors eventually labeled as terrorism. While the assassination of Brian Thompson was the act of one man, the celebration of his killer reveals a deeply fractured country where the center is no longer holding.
Welcome to Unfiltered Reality, where the truth is darker than fiction.